Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Good afternoon, dear Venerable Abbot, dear Sangha. It's nice and festive today. We have on an auspicious occasion today. We are conducting the ceremony of transmitting the 3 refuge and the 5 precepts to 4 of our members that have been here for a while, and they've decided to make the commitment to take the 3 refuge and the 5 precepts, which essentially in the Buddhist world means you become an official Buddhist. It's simply just a title, but it does not guarantee that you would become a good Buddhist with or without these precepts. So that's on you. So today it's an auspicious occasion since we don't do this very often, and when we do, it's for those that we believe are truly committed to the practice and whom are willing to make the diligent effort to practice and to study and to apply those teachings and those studies to their life. And so today we will transmit those precepts to these 4 members. And we'll go into more detail in a bit as far as the ceremony is concerned, but we will start with the chanting first. I believe it's on page 55. All right. The 3 refuge 5 precepts. So we'll begin with the opening chant. Please rise. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness, I send my, along with the sound of the bell, may the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit standing slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. The incense in the censer now is burning. In every place auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfill. as all Buddhas now show their perfect body. Homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas. Homage to the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma, insatiably sung throughout the Dharma realm and the realm, empty space and 3 periods of time. Homage to the fundamental teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honored future Buddha Manjushri, great wisdom, Bodhisattva, universal great conduct, Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattva, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to Amitabha Buddha in the land of Ultim, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, earth store, great vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure seed Bodhisattvas. Please sit down. Namo great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Ratnatrayaya, Namo Aryavalokiteshavaraya, Bodhisattvaya, Mahasattvaja, Mahakarunikaya, Om Sarvaravaye, Sudanadasya, Namaskritva Imamarya, Valokiteshvara Ramdava, Namo Narakendi, Hri Mahavatswami, Sarvarhatu Shubham, Ajiyam, Sarva Sattva, Namo Vastava, Namo Bhag Mavitato, Vinashina Asham Prashari Visha Vishram Prashaya Holo Holo Mara Holo Holo Hri Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Bodhiya Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Narakindi Krishanina Vayamana Swaha Siddhaya Swaha Mahasiddhaya Swaha Siddhayogi Shvaraya Swaha Narakindi Swaha Maranara Swaha Sirasimha Mokaya Swaha Sarva Mahasiddhaya Swaha Chakra Siddhaya Swaha Padma Kasaya Swaha Narakindi Vagadaya Swaha Mavadi Sankaraya Yaya Namo Arya Varokete Shvaraya Swaha Om Siryanto Mantra Padaya Swaha. The Dharma body is bringing morning light and concentration. My heart is at peace, a half smile is born on my lips. This is a new day. I vow to go through it and mindful. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha, diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Hearts of the Sattva Avalokita, while moving in the discourse of Prajna Paramita, shed light on the five skandhas, found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill-being. Listen, Shadiput, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness. Form the same is true with feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shadiputra, all dharmas are marked with empty. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing nor decreased. Therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, no perceptions nor mental formation, nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no what. Because there is no attainment, the Bodhisattva's ground in Prajna Paramita. No obstacles for their minds, having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberate themselves forever from illusion, and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore one should know the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of ill being, the incorruptible truth, the mantra, prajna paramita should therefore be Gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha namo amitabhaya tathagata yataryata amrit bhavi amrita siddham bhavi amrita vikranti amrita Vikranta Kamini Gaga Kirta Kare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Tathagata Yatarya Mrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikranti Amrita Vikranta Kamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Tathagata Yataryata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikranti Amrita Vik Gamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha. Will the 4 aspirants please come forward and bow 3 times? Please kneel. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. The sea of precepts has no shore, but if you drink 1 drop, you taste the flavor of the entire body of ocean water. The mountain of wisdom radiates everywhere. If you climb but 1 step up, its light will penetrate your entire body. Without direction from a sage, he will gaze at the ocean and heave a sigh. But if you meet a good knowing advisor, then you will find a transcending path to ascend. Today I transmit the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. To request the master, you should speak for yourself. You should all say your Dharma name.
As I now request the Venerable Master to be my triple refuge and 5 precepts master, I wish the Venerable Master will bestow the refuges and precepts as my primary master, because I trust the Venerable Master and hope to obtain the pure triple refuges and 5 precepts due to his great kindness.
Good men and good women, because you have made your request with utmost sincerity, I will consent to be your primary teacher in transmitting the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts to you. Now that you have listened carefully and understood clearly, can you practice according to the teachings?
Yes, we can receive and uphold them according to the Dharma.
Good men and good women, since all of you have said you can receive and uphold according to the Dharma, you should first invite the triple jewels to descend to the Dharma assembly to certify and witness this auspicious ceremony. Then you should invite the myriad divine spirits to guard the way and protect the precepts.
With incense and flowers we greet, with incense and flowers we entreat. All earnestly and reverently request Shakyamuni Buddha, teaching host of the Saka world, Amitabha Buddha, who leads us to the land of ultimate bliss, Maitreya, Buddha of the future, and all Buddhas to the end of empty space. Please remember your fundamental vows. Gather and shine your lights of kindness to certify this act of taking the 3 refuges and 5 precepts.
Incense and flowers and
Greet
incense and
with
flowers.
incense and flowers and treat.
I, disciple, treat the end.
And all earnestly and reverently request the Mahayana and Theravada vehicles, the Vinaya treasury, the 5 categories and 3 collections, the Pratimosaka, code of liberation, the 12 divisions of the scriptures, the provisional and actual teachings, the profound Dharma jewels of living desire and true purity. Heedful and wholehearted, we return our lives in worship. Incense and flowers we greet, with incense and flowers we entreat. I, disciple, and all earnestly and reverently request Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Great Strength Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, Universal Lord Bodhisattva, Earth Store Bodhisattva, and all great Bodhisattvas of the pure sea vast assembly. Bodhisattvas, please remember your fundamental vows. Gather and shine your lights of kindness to certify this act of taking the 3 refuges and 5 precepts. With incense and flowers we greet, with incense and flowers we entreat. I, disciple, and all earnestly and reverently request the luminous assembly of gods in the transitory existence of the various heavens, Brahma, Shakra, the 4 celestial kings, the earth devas who guard the precepts. Please remember your fundamental vows, preside at this ceremony, and protect the taking of refuges and precepts.
Good men and good women, you have now invited and requested the triple jewels and the myriad spirits to come to certify, witness, guard, and protect this ceremony. Now that they have bestowed kindness and descended, filling up all the Dharma seats, before all of you take the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, you should first gather in with grief and sorrow, and with utmost earnestness repent all transgressions you have done in the past. When the 3 karmas are undefiled, then you qualify to take the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. I will now speak the great Sutta Gathas for your sake. You should listen to what I say and contemplate the meanings and principles of the verses in the sutra in your mind. You should make the resolve and vow to repent the past mistakes and cultivate good merits in the future and never again do any evils.
All the evil karma that I have made in the past because of the beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, my body, speech, and mind, in word and deed, I now repent of all entirely. All the evil karma that I have made in the past because of the beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, my body, speech, and mind, in word and deed, I now repent of all entirely. All the evil karma that I have made in the past because of the beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, my body, speech, and mind, in word and deed, I now repent of all entirely.
Good men and good women, after you have repented and reformed with utmost sincerity, your body and mind are pure, and your karmic offenses are destroyed and eradicated. Today, the community has gathered to give support to those who will vow to go for refuge to the 3 jewels and the 5 precepts. You have the chance to learn about and observe the way of understanding and love that has been handed down to us by teachers over many centuries. And today, you have made the decision to go for refuge to the 3 jewels and receive the 5 precepts. To take refuge in the 3 jewels is to turn to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha for protection. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are the 3 precious gems. To take refuge in the Buddha is to take refuge in the awakened one who has the ability to show us the way in this life. To take refuge in the Dharma is to take refuge in the way of understanding, love, and compassion. To take refuge in the Sangha is to take refuge in a community that practices according to the path of understanding, love, and compassion, and lives in an awakened way. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are present in every quarter of the universe, as well as in every person and in all other species. To go for refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha also means to have confidence in our own ability to be awakened, to develop and manifest understanding and love in ourselves, and to practice the way for ourselves and for our family, our community, and the world. Now it is time for you to recite the taking of the 3 refuges.
I, disciple, to the end of my life, I vow to take refuge with the Buddha. To end my life, I vow to take refuge in the Dharma. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Sangha. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Precepts.
I, disciple,
wait to the end of my life, I vow to take refuge with the Buddha. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Dharma. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Sangha. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Precepts. I, disciple, to the end of my life, I vow to take refuge with the Buddha. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Dharma. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Sangha. To the end of my life, I vow to take refuge in the Precepts. Having taken refuge with the Buddha, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the heavenly demon, Mahashiva, and so forth. I take refuge with the thus come one's most true, equal, and right enlightenment. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Buddha, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the heavenly demon, Mahishava, and so forth. I take refuge with the thus come one's most true, equal, and right enlightenment. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Buddha, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the heavenly demon, Mahishava, and so forth. I take refuge with the thus come one's most true, equal, and right enlightenment. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Dharma, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the scriptures and texts of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the 3 treasuries and the 12 divisions of all the scriptures spoken by the thus come one. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Dharma, would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the scriptures and texts of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the 3 treasuries and the 12 divisions of all the scriptures spoken by the thus come one. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having given refuge with the Dharma, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the scriptures and texts of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the 3 treasuries and the 12 divisions of all the scriptures spoken by the thus come one. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Sangha, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the improper assemblies of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the Sangha, the pure field of blessings. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Sangha, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the improper assemblies of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the Sangha, the pure field of blessings. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having given refuge with the Sangha, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the improper assemblies of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the Sangha, the pure field of blessings. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Huipu, having taken refuge with the Precepts, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the deviant precepts of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the Prasamokasha because of the thus come one. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Hui Fu, having taken refuge with the precepts, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the deviant precepts of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the Pratimokshas because spoken by the thus come one. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion. I, disciple Hui Fu, having taken refuge with the precepts, I would rather give up my body and life than ever take refuge with the deviant precepts of those outside of the way. I take refuge with the Pratimokshas spoken by the thus come one. I do this because of my world-honored one's great compassion.
Disciples, you have formally received the 3 refuges. Receiving them will enable you to see the 3 jewels in your own heart and bring them into your daily life. Today you have become students of the Awakened One and have made the vow to live in an awakened life. Beginning from today, you will apply your mind of learning about and practicing the way of understanding, love, and compassion, which means to nourish the ability to love and understand within yourselves. You will also go for refuge to your Sangha in order to learn and practice, and you will attend days of retreats of mindfulness, meditation, and recitations of the precepts and other activities of your Sangha. The 3 refuges have been transmitted to you, and your Dharma names have been chosen by myself, Venerable Tukwangchi. And you should take your refuge in your teacher and your Sangha to learn and practice the path. The Dharma names that I have bestowed upon you. Max receives the name Tri Yung. So for male students, they take the part of my name. So my name is Kwang Tri. And so they would take my second part of my name. So Tri Yung. Tri means wisdom or wise. And Zung or Yung means brave or courage. So the names are chosen according to the person's either capabilities or areas of opportunity that they have. But fortunately for all of you today, you all receive names that I believe are strong characteristics within you. Kai, or Malachi, receives the name Chi Tien. Chi, again, means wisdom. Tien means meditation. Chi Tien receives this name for a lot of things I want to go into. Just know that Chi Tien is a diligent meditator. Linda receives the name Hui Fuk. Hui, also part of the temple's name, Fuk Hui. Hui here also means wisdom or wise, and Fuk means happiness. So every time I see Linda, she's always happy and smiling, and I believe she brings happiness to those in her Sangha. Christina receives the name Hui An. Again, Hui is wisdom, An means peace, which applies to everybody really, but for Christina, peace is, I hope, is the result and goal of her practice. I know a lot of times the capability of being mindful and meditative often or enough in our lives doesn't always happen. It's difficult to be mindful 24/7. However, in moments of difficulty or hardship or whatever it may be, if one becomes and stays mindful and recalls your precepts and recall your practice, then you will be able to escape the difficult situation that you're in. Disciples, now is the time to transmit the 5 precepts. They have the capacity to protect life and make it beautiful. The 5 precepts encourage us in the direction of peace, joy, liberation, and awakening. They are the foundation for individual happiness and the happiness of the family and society. If we practice according to the 5 precepts, we are already on the path of a bodhisattva. The 5 precepts protect us and help us avoid making mistakes and creating suffering, fear, and despair. Practicing these precepts, we are able to build peace and happiness in ourselves, in our family, and joy and peace in our society. You should pervasively condition all the states throughout the Dharma realm and resolve to bring forth an unsurpassed Bodhi mind. Receive and uphold each and every precept. Now you should answer my questions truthfully. First, from now until the end of your life, refraining from killing, not letting others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world is the laity precept. Can you uphold this precept?
Yes, I can uphold it.
Secondly, from now until the end of your life, refraining from stealing and not to possess anything that should belong to others is the laity precept. Can you uphold this precept?
Yes, I can uphold it.
Thirdly, from now until the end of your life, refraining from sexual misconduct and learning ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society is the laity precept. Can you uphold this precept?
Yes, I can uphold it.
Fourthly, from now until the end of your life, refraining from telling lies and to speak truthfully with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope, not spreading news that you do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which you are not sure, and to refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord is the laity precept. Can you uphold this precept?
Yes, I can uphold it.
Fifthly, from now until the end of your life, refraining from taking intoxicants, both physical and mental, refraining from taking intoxicants, both physical and mental, for yourself, your family, and society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming is the laity precept. Can you uphold this precept?
Yes,
Please sit down. So now you've received the 3 refuge and 5 precepts. Congratulations. Taking the precepts for someone who is practicing Buddhism is not always a necessary action to do. These precepts, unlike they are not commandments in no sense that thou shalt not do this or that, but instead the precepts are simply training rules, right? They're training wheels. They allow you to help stabilize your practice, help stabilize your life, help stabilize your mind. And the Buddha describes these precepts as faultless gifts, right? So what are these gifts? These are a gift of fearlessness. For those that follow the precepts, the Buddha says that they become dear and respected by human and non-human beings. So if you think of people that you interact with in your daily life, if you have someone in your life that practices and follows the precepts, someone that you know and you trust, and know that they're not going to try to kill you, they're not trying to steal from you, they're not trying to lie to you, they're not trying to sleep with your spouse, right? So in a world where we have all kinds of ignorance, greed, and anger, where everything is chaotic and there's no one to trust, you can trust that one person. And so you're surrounded in the Sangha by those people. You're surrounded by the cultivators that will help you maintain and sow and grow your seeds of compassion, of generosity, joy, and discipline, and understanding for the rest of your life. You have chosen and placed yourself in a community of Dharma brothers and sisters that will love and respect you and will take every opportunity to help you achieve your spiritual aspirations. A lot of people think that Buddhism is simply just about sitting meditation, right? But really, Buddhism is first and foremost to develop our mind by working on morality, right? But the reason why is because all the unwholesome and habitual thoughts that we constantly give rise to are always manifesting themselves into our speech and action that we commit. So morality is a way for us to refrain or abstain from doing the things that lead us to suffering, right? So in daily life, we come into contact with various sense objects, right, through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. And most of what we expose ourselves to comes from the world that we live in, from the internet, from TV, from different places that we go to, like even bars and clubs, right? They give rise to a lot of toxic emotions within us. They revolve around things like sex, violence, and material possession or material pursuits. And the constant exposure to these toxic sense objects can lead us to obsession and addiction. So the precepts form the basis for everything that is good. Their essential character is one of non-violation. For by not violating others, you can protect and purify the three karmas of body, speech, and mind. And by observing these precepts, you enjoy peace and well-being. You can hone spiritual focus and avoid acting in unwholesome ways. And by observing the precepts wholeheartedly, you can achieve the 5 powers of faith, diligence, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. But we shouldn't think about these precepts as limiting or taking away your freedom. Because if you go to a prison, if you go to a jail, and survey the inmates that are there and why they're incarcerated, it's because they've broken one or more of the 5 precepts. Yes? Murder, attempted murder, aggravated assault are all violations of the precept against killing. Stealing, embezzlement, kidnapping are all violations against stealing. Rape and prostitution, sexual abuse, human trafficking are violations against the precept of sexual misconduct. Lying, defamation, breach of promise, false accusations, spreading rumors are all violations of the precept against lying. And drug dealing, drug addiction, drug trafficking, and misuse of drugs and alcohol are all violations against the precept of consuming intoxicants. So we can easily find ourselves locked up in prison with our freedom taken away because we've violated the precepts. And if we're able to truly abide and undertake these precepts and observe them, truly understand the real joy and freedom in life. And undertake and observing the 5 precepts, the spirit of the precept is freedom. Because when we take the precepts, we will not violate others. And as long as we can discipline ourselves, we will also not be breaking the law and ending up in prison. The 5 precepts may be separated when we speak about them or when we teach about them, but fundamentally they are all only one precept. So since freedom is to be respected, do not violate others. To refrain from killing is not violating the life of others. To refrain from stealing is not violating the property of others. To refrain from sexual misconduct is not violating the physical body of others. To refrain from consuming intoxicants is not violating the health of oneself or others. And to refrain from lying is not violating the reputation of others. So if you're able to uphold the precepts, you can enjoy great blessings without even asking for them. If one does not kill but instead protects life, then how can one not have longevity? If one does not steal but is instead generous, then how can you not be wealthy? If one does not engage in sexual misconduct but instead is respectful, how can the family not be harmonious? If one does not lie but is instead honest, how can one not have a good reputation? And if one does not become intoxicated but instead looks after the body, how can not one have good health? And so the precepts have a great impact upon yourself and the community and the world as a whole. And so when we take the precepts today, and when you're taking the precepts and you're reciting the precepts, you're making these vows, these promises to yourself. A promise to abstain from taking life, a vow to protect life, a vow to not steal, and a vow to be generous, a vow to not commit sexual misconduct. You promise to be faithful and diligent. You promise not to lie, but instead you speak truth. You vow to not take intoxicants. You vow to protect yourself and others. So these are not rules that say, do not do this, do not do that. But these are simply common sense things, right? Hopefully, none of us just randomly want to go out and kill something or someone, right? But unfortunately, because we live in a very chaotic and busy world and society, it is sometimes by accident or unintentional or subconsciously we may break a precept or two. The very first precept is not taking life, which literally means to not intentionally go out and want to take life. If you were just walking from the parking lot down to the temple, you may have accidentally stepped on ants or bugs, right? But because the intention behind that was not malicious, you did not have an intentionally ill will to kill beings, right? You're not necessarily breaking the precept. You still have a small karmic hit, but it's not as huge if you were to go out on the road and be like, ooh, there's a deer, let me run over it. There are too many of them in the neighborhood. One less one is better, right? So as long as you don't have the malicious intention to kill or to take life, then you are following the precept. And so when you take these precepts, you're not taking these precepts for the Buddha or for the Dharma or for the Sangha. You're not taking the precepts for myself or for the abbot. You're taking these precepts for yourself. No one made you want to take precepts. No one forced you to sit here and take refuge and take the precepts. This is your decision. Right? This is your path that you are creating in order to help liberate yourself, to help liberate others. The Buddha has always mentioned that the best way to practice Buddhism, the best way to respect the Buddha and the Dharma and to worship the Buddha and the Dharma is not by coming to a temple and taking refuge, taking precepts, and doing all the chanting, but by serving yourself and by able to serve others. So by serving others, you're practicing the precepts. And as I mentioned earlier, just because you have precepts now does not make you a Buddhist, right? Coming to temple every week does not make you a Buddhist. Going to church every week does not make you a Christian. What makes you a practitioner is practicing your teachings. Okay? So just because we are here and we're chanting and we are practicing together, if you don't take this practice and the things that you read and chant and learn outside into your everyday life, you've wasted your time. But fortunately, because I know you well enough, that you are able, I know that you are applying your practices of mindfulness and meditation outside of the temple. And that's all you have to do. We don't have to make any grand proclamation in the world. You don't have to have a little mini temple in the house, right? If you have a little sit area or a little corner in your room or in the closet or something, I don't know, a little cupboard under the stairs like Harry Potter or something. What's it called? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about, right? Even that is enough. But if you're able to create a sacred space in your house or in your room, right? Create a little shrine, a little altar. Have this be your little Zen circle, Zen area. And you use that as an opportunity to go and sit when you're having a difficult time in life. Every day is not a great day, but every day can be a happy day. And it's always happy, regardless of the situations that you're in. Not every day is going to be good. You're going to have difficulties at work. You're going to have difficulties in your personal lives, in your professional lives. But because you're practitioners, you know how to work with those difficulties and not take them to a point where they alter your mind to a degree where you are violent or unwholesome or creating negative thoughts, speech, and actions. Because you're practitioners, you know that when you're in situations of difficulty or moments where someone may be arguing with you or trying to insult you or whatever it may be, as a now Buddhist, you're able to take the practices of mindfulness, take the practices of not reacting too quickly, right? Because oftentimes, most times, when people are yelling at us, or especially when they're insulting us or trying to argue with us, most people, as they're being insulted or yelled at, you're already thinking of a comeback. You're already thinking of what to say in retaliation, right? We forget about that even though this person's yelling at us, they're yelling at us because they are too suffering. And this is their way to release that suffering. Albeit it's a wrong way, but for them, that's how they express their suffering. And so because we know that that person's suffering as much as we are suffering, we don't want to add any insult to injury and add more suffering to them. So instead of trying to think of a good comeback or think of how we're going to retaliate to their argument, all we have to do is simply take a few deep breaths and just listen. We apply the practices of Avalokiteshvara. He, she is the Bodhisattva of great compassion, of great listening. So we too have to have the power of great listening so that we can listen to the suffering that this person is clearly giving us. And if we're able to listen deeply and clearly to the suffering being, then we can use our practices and we can use our methods to help ease that suffering. And so when we take up the precepts, the precepts are ways to protect yourselves, right? If you're able to, we find ways to help. The precepts are ways to help us not commit unwholesome actions, right? Everything starts out as a thought. All our karma comes from our thought, speech, and action. And so if you are able to stop yourself, if you're in that argument or someone's arguing with you or insulting you, if in that moment you're able to stop and observe your mind and how it's thinking, how it's reacting, that's your first checkpoint. Do something good. Because again, if you're already retaliating and thinking of what you want to say, what you want to come back, it's already bad. You already lost. But because it's still at a thought process and you have not spoken those words yet, you have time to correct yourself. So as you're in this argument and you're observing your mind correctly, diligently, and you're seeing how it works and how it's reacting and what it's saying in response, that's your first checkpoint. If you're able to recognize what's happening at that moment and recognize that what you're thinking is unwholesome or negative, you can say, this is unwholesome, this is unhelpful, this is unbeneficial. Let's change the way that thinking is happening. That's your first checkpoint. If you're unable to succeed at that checkpoint, then you have another checkpoint, which is speech. Right? So our speech, even though sometimes we may say things without thinking, there is a thinking. Even though it may be fractions and fractions of seconds, thinking is always happening. But if you're not able to catch it, then speech, negative speech happens, unwholesome speech happens. That's your second checkpoint. Even if you stop yourself mid-sentence, mid-speech, that's perfectly fine. You've caught yourself. If you've also failed at that point, and you've said all these unwholesome things and these unhelpful words, you can have one more checkpoint, which is action, the deeds that you do. Especially if in a heated moment, right? Sometimes especially in arguments, sometimes things get physical, become violent. Hopefully very rarely that happens, but it's still a checkpoint. Action is still a checkpoint. So you have all these little bits and pieces, all these little checkpoints in this span of 5 to 10 seconds of this argument, which may not seem like a long time, but it's enough time to bring you back to the present moment, to bring you back to your awareness of what's going on. And if you're able to catch yourself You've protected your mind, you've protected your speech, and you've protected your action. Ultimately, you've protected yourself and you've protected others because of the precepts, because of you upholding those precepts. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. As new members of the now temple, members that have taken precepts and refuge also receive the brown sashes, representing that these are members of the temple who have taken precepts. So those that have the brown sashes represent those who have taken the 3 refuge and the 5 precepts, and those with the yellow sashes have taken the next step of the vows, which are the bodhisattva vows. And so today we present the sashes to these four new members, Chu Hui An, Hui Fuk, Chi Tian, and Chi Young. Please rise, kneel, and hold the sashes to your forehead while you recite the making the vow 3 times. Please kneel.
Afflictions. I vow to study the countless Dharma doors. I vow to realize the Supreme Buddha way. I vow to take across the living beings of my own nature. I vow to cut off the afflictions of my own nature. I vow to study the Dharma doors of my own nature. I vow to realize the Buddha way of my own nature. I vow to take across numberless living beings. I vow to cut off endless afflictions. I vow to study the countless Dharma doors. I vow to realize the Supreme Buddha way. I vow to take across living beings of my own nature. I vow to cut off the afflictions of my own nature. I vow to study the Dharma doors of my own nature. I vow to realize the Buddha way of my own nature. I vow to take across the numberless living beings. I vow to cut off the endless afflictions. I vow to study the countless Dharma doors. I vow to realize the Supreme Buddha way. I vow to take across living beings of my own nature. I vow to cut off the afflictions of my own nature. I vow to study the Dharma doors of my own nature. I vow to realize the Buddha way of my own nature.
Okay, you may put on the sash and sit. And we will all chant together the transfer of merit. May all beings without limit, without end, have a share in the merit just now made, and in whatever other merits I have made, those who are dear and kind to me, beginning with my mother and father, whom I have seen or never seen, and others neutral or hostile, establish in the cosmos the 3 realms of 4 modes of birth, with 5, 1, or 4 aggregate, wandering from realm. If they know of my dedication of merit, may they themselves rejoice, and if they do not, may the Devas inform them by reason of their rejoice in my gift of merit. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May they attain nirvana and their radiant hopes be fulfilled. Okay, please rise. You may go back to your regular seats. You can go back to your seat. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of I take refuge in the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty. The world dwelling in the refuge, learn to open dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha, in myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold community, to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Reciting the sutras, practicing the ways of awareness in the vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Will the four of you please come back up to receive your certificates? Take a bunch of pictures. To Christina Benavides, Hui An. Congratulations. Linda Sutner, Hui Flup. Congratulations. Malachi Trevino, Chi Tien. Congratulations. Maximilian Hart, Chi Yun. Congratulations. Congrats. If you want to move the mic around, and y'all can kneel facing that way. We'll take pictures. Leon? Oh, there we go. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. As a special offering, there will be lunch in the next room. If you are able to join us, please do. Thank you. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.